Hi everyone, how's it going? We're the Quizzards. We're doing our project on an exam assessment for the anthropology department. I'm Daniel Rios. I'm the documentation lead.
I'm Russell Small. I am the lead developer.
I'm Calvin Bergonio. I'm the lead tester. I'm Robert Campbell. I am the team leader.
And our client also works here at the university, is Dr. McCutcheon. He's a professor in the anthropology department, just down that way. And our advisor is Dr. Phil. Cool guy. He's been helping us out a lot. Appreciate it. So
the problem that the anthropology department currently has is anytime a student enters their program, the anthropology program as a whole, they take both an entrance exam, and then when they finish the program, they take an exit exam. And both of these exams are essentially handwritten, hand-scored, hand-reported. This process is incredibly time-consuming for either the professor who has to administer the exam and then score it, or an unlucky grad student who gets assigned to do that work, which, as we've been assured, it does happen. And another problem with this is that when this happens, the professors are unable to get good results. They can't really compare direct results of these tests. They can only look at the scores as a whole. Whereas they may want to compare and look at specific categories of these exams, like how are these students doing on the biological portion, or how are they doing on the linguistics portion. And right now, the current methods make this impossible. So moving on.
Okay. So our proposed solution is to develop a website to automate the exam assessments. The team decided to use Ruby on Rails, Ruby as a language, and Rails as the framework. By then, we're going to administer the exams for the students. Second is to automate the grading, and third one is to analyze the results. And for the team is going to use MySQL database, which will house the exam questions, the results from the exams, and student information such as previous college attended, year it is expected to graduate, and additional information.
So the process model, we are using an agile development process. And we chose this because our requirements are not static. During the conversations that we had with our advisor, not our advisor, but our client, he mentioned some functions that he wanted to have in the program that we figured we might not have time for. And so if we do get to it, it was basically adding graphs to view all the test scores in graphs or charts. And so we want to be able to add these requirements and be able to test them if we get to them in time, which we kind of hope we are. It'd be kind of cool to be able to do that. Yeah. So just a quick layout of our presentation. We will go over our project requirements. Just explain what the client needs for the program. Quick demonstration of what we have so far. It's pretty good. Quality assurance, what we're doing to make sure we're developing as best program as we can for the client. And risks and what we can do to avoid them. And then we'll end with final thoughts and take any questions if you have any.
Okay, so project requirements. So we have three types of user accounts. So mainly the administrator, the faculty, and the students. The students will be taking the entrance and exit out exam. Then the faculty will have the ability to create and modify individual questions and or the test exams. And secondly, they can compare the results at the end. While the administrator will manage all user accounts. So originally our client proposed an application that will run on Macintosh computers on the anthropology department. However, the team planned to develop the application on a Windows operating system. Fortunately, our team talked it out, and we proposed a new, better solution, which is a web-based service, because it will provide a more easier access for any other operating system so that students can access it from any other computer that they wanted to have.
Additionally, for this project, we need a system for managing student records and student information, test information, the tests themselves even. And we could design our own system for this, but we decided that it would be too tedious, too time-consuming, and not really part of the scope of the project. So we decided to go with the standard SQL database, which can easily be used to store large amounts of data and perform queries.
So here we're going to do, I'll swap over, give you a brief demonstration of what we have currently. I'm just going to go over one of the biggest use cases for this program is simply adding and removing or editing users into the system. So currently, we have not got the authentication in completely, so by default, you're an administrator. So here you're given the administrator overview, and if you wanted to view user accounts, this is linked to an SQLite database currently. So as of right now in this database, we have 2 users, myself and Russell. And let's say we wanted to add a new one, such as Calvin. And we wanted to give him a description, say he is from Bellevue College. Now I would simply create the user. And he is, as you see, his confirmation, user has been added. And if I go back and view the database, he's there. And if I decide that he is not from Bellevue College, I made a mistake, or I spelled his last name wrong, as I frequently do, I'll just call you Berg. Gives me confirmation that the update was successful, and it is reflected in the database view. And then let's say he decides to leave the anthropology program without taking an exam, and we simply want to remove him, period. We would simply destroy his profile. Sorry, Calvin. If I go back to my overview here. The other pages here, while we do have links to them, there's not much functionality on them currently, so I'd like to just kind of elaborate on one of them, namely the question data bank. This is where a faculty will be able to go in and it will view specific questions that will appear on the exams. So here we have on the left a list of 2 questions. So the user would simply select one and then it would populate these fields. If they had decided they wanted to edit it, say there was a spelling error, as you can see there is, appropriate form H, he could simply edit and then make the change and then save it. Or if you wanted to sort lists, you could simply go to the view options and there would be a variety of sorting options.
This is the database that I've designed to be able to manage to store the student information, the questions, and answers, and results of the tests. So we've got an account table which will store login information, passwords, and also store like what kind of user this is. Is this an administrator or a student or not? If it's a student, it'll contain a link to the student, which is stored. The student can then be assigned tests. They can take a test. This will store questions as well. And additionally, students and questions can both be tagged to allow for more higher level sorting. For example, you could tag a student as coming from Bellevue College and then see how the people from Bellevue College did in relation to the people from, say, Everett Community College. You can also tag questions such as saying that this is an anthropology question or this is a linguistics question, and ask the system what kind of, see how people are doing in certain categories rather than as the entire test as a whole. Okay. In order to make sure that we are working on something that the client actually wants, we decided to meet frequently with the client. And we recently we saw him and we had a paper prototype that we presented and got feedback on, which showed what the project would look like in the future. Additionally, we have another risk. So risk-wise, we need to learn Ruby on Rails. Since none of us have any formal experience with Ruby on Rails, we need to learn the language, and it's entirely possible that we would misuse code, misuse keywords, etc., and end up with code that is unreadable and barely functions. Additionally, we need to worry about scope creep, as our client has given us a large list of requirements that we unfortunately may not be able to implement all of them. So we need to discuss with the client to figure out which requirements are higher priority than others.
Okay, so future testing plans. Rails actually provides a great framework for unit testing, so we'll be using that for the portions of the Ruby code. And then for the system as a whole, we plan to use Selenium testing. Final thoughts on the project? Thus far, it's been well. It was a little rocky at the start, beginning with the Rails framework. It was a lot to learn, but now that we've actually spent some time playing with it, the project's going fairly well. It's at a steady pace. We have extremely fruitful client meetings. Our client has been fantastic. We always come away with our meetings with more answers than we have questions. We always go in his direction, and he's strongly approved of what we do. Any questions?
Are the tests just standard multiple choice type questions, or are there short answers?
No, I should have elaborated on that. No, there will be a Dropbox in the question creator where the user can specify what type of question to do. So we'll have support for true or false questions, multiple choice, short answer, and then possibly anything else that the client requests.
The follow-up to that is, how do you automatically grade short answer questions?
How do we what? I'm sorry?
Automatically grade short answer questions.
See, that is a difficult. It'll be right. Currently, the thought is we're going to go off of keywords. So does this paper hit all the points that the professor says? But the professors will have the option to go in and manually regrade. So if there is an error, or this doesn't seem right, the professor will have the option to go in and correct. Well, I think Melissa was first.
So I was wondering if you're going to be using any of the special functionality that Ruby Gems has.
It's a little challenging. So there are a lot of gems. We haven't looked at a large variety yet, so it's still in the realm of possibility. Over this break, we plan to look at quite a few more and see if there's additional gems that will help us out. Alex?
With your keyword system, how are you going to handle situations like plurality, like sprints, or, for example, typos?
It's very specific, and we're not. We haven't nailed that down 100% yet. Thank you. It's a work in progress on that point. So I don't think we don't have a whole lot on for that. Derek?
Why did you choose Ruby on Rails?
So we were actually talking about this, so we skipped it. Originally, so when we first began looking at a web-based service, the original thought was we were going to use ASP.NET. And ASP.NET requires a Windows server to run on. And we may not always have that. All the computers in the anthropology department are Macintosh computers. So we looked at languages that we could potentially run on both. And although I have some limited experience with Ruby on Rails, because I have a close friend who is a Ruby developer, so I've seen it, and I've done I've done some research on it, and to me it looked like a fantastic choice. It provided a lot of the features, and so I pitched to the group, and they approved, and we were running with it. We liked it.
If you guys don't know about Code Academy, that's a really good site. That's where we got a lot of tutorials, and you got to pick up the way the syntax that they use in Ruby, so it was really helpful. So, reference for anybody who wants to pick up the language.
Dr. Schwing, I want to say something. Anyone else?
All right. It's lovely.